been here. It's beautiful here, so what we saw anyway so far.
You came this morning or
Yeah.
yesterday? This
We
morning.
came this morning pretty early. We were here at the club at about 10 o'clock. So. Yeah.
Okay, my first question is taking us 30 years back on your first demo, not demo, debut album. The producer of your album was Dave Mustaine. Not many people know that.
Sure.
How did it came to this collaboration between you and Mustaine?
Well, in 1985, we recorded a demo that was most of what was later to be on Refuge Denied. And at the time, we were kind of in a situation where we were doing pretty good in Seattle, and we needed to make another step, the next step. And I remember telling the guys, we got to do something, to get it, to get noticed, And there was a King Diamond Megadeth concert coming through town, and I told them that, hey, I'm going to take the tape down to the show, and I'm going to meet Dave Mustaine, and I'm going to give it to him. And they're all just laughing at me, basically going, because now I even think about it, I'm like, who the fuck does it? Right? That's not going to happen. And so, I went down there with a couple friends, with a couple girls, and another guy friend of mine, and we tried to, find him backstage or, back behind the building and everything, and we couldn't find him, of course. And eventually we ended up hearing one of the roadies talking about where he was staying at a hotel. So got my buddies and we went over there and we walked the hotel floor. There was no security for some reason, I don't know why. But we walked every floor of the hotel until we heard a loud room, and the door happened to be kind of open and they were playing music, and I had the two girls with me, and they were cute, and I pushed them in first, and I said, you guys go in first, maybe they won't notice us, because I knew, Dave Mustaine had some sort of a reputation for, maybe not, being a little, I don't know, we were a little apprehensive, thought maybe he might throw us out or something, So as we walked in, I saw him over there sitting at a table, and he was drinking, some Cavassier, and he said to me, hey, you, come here. And I was like, oh shit, he's gonna throw me out of here. And I walked over and started talking to him. He said, you want some Cavassier? I said, yeah. I sat down, I talked to him, and eventually, after like a half an hour, I got him to come down to our car and listen to a demo tape. I just said, I got this, you gotta hear it. And I convinced him, he was gracious enough to pick me up on it and go down and listen. And he liked it so much, he said, I want to produce you guys. And I was like, no fucking way, are you kidding me? And he
no
said,
one believed you after, no?
Yeah, well, I know. It's like, I didn't believe it either. I gave him the tape and I was like, I'll never hear from him again, I'll never see it. And he gave me his phone number. And back then, this was before everybody had a cell phone or anything. Yeah. So when I went home, I called the number, and it was his voice on the other end. It was an answering machine or whatever, and you could tell it was him. And I was like, holy shit, it's him. So a couple weeks later, he called me back and he said, I still got the demo tape, I love it. Let's do something here, and that was it. And so, at that point, we, just kind of moved forward, and the rest is history.
So he's not so hard person to work with. Mustaine, no.
No, I mean his reputation. He has a reputation for being, kind of outspoken and hard ass, and he could be that way. But with us, we hit it off with him really good. I mean, he was always very, very gracious and fair guy. You know what I mean? And he took us on to tour with him, and that was one of the greatest experiences of our life. We got to play with a lot of bands around that time, Megadeth, and Testament, and Flotsam and Jetsam, and all these bands, that we didn't have exposure to before. And it was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything. So. Yeah.
How did you find your place in the Seattle scene? Regarding that scene is mostly grunge.
At that time when we were beginning.
You were before.
Yeah, at that time when we were beginning, things were happening, and we were kind of on top of the heap, everything was good. And then once the grunge thing started to happen, it suddenly became difficult, and metal was kind of a bad word, But right about that time was sort of the end of the band. The band was kind of breaking up, and, just things weren't working out. We were kind of partying a little too hard, drinking a little too much, got in a couple fights, you know, all that shit. And eventually we just said, screw it. You know, it's like 5 people being married, you know? And every now and then you fall out of love with people or something happens and you say, see you later. So, that happens.
The second record, Into the Mirror Black, was recorded with another producer, no more Mustaine. Why is that? You didn't want it, he didn't want it?
You know, there was talk about it at one time, about him doing it. From what I remember, it was a scheduling thing. He was doing a lot of things, and we needed to go right then. And I think at first, you know, I know he had kind of expressed his unhappiness about not being able to do it, but I don't think it was a big deal. But he was busy doing his thing. I mean, they were starting to kind of really take off, and I just think it was probably better that way, you know. So, I mean, he did a great job for the time. You know, it sounds like that time frame and everything, but one thing we always like to try and do is, I mean, even though we only really have 3 records, we kind of pride ourselves in trying to make each one, you know, another step, you know, and another. We want to make sure that it's not the same as the last. So I think having another producer probably helped that too. So.
And the third album with Zeus, or how do you pronounce the producer's name?
Zeus.
Nickname Zeus.
Yeah, Zeus.
He brought something of his own.
Yeah, I mean that was the one thing that we were really concerned about. I mean, we didn't go into the whole thing really thinking too much about any of it, other than we wanted to make sure that we had, you know, great production and great songs. That was our number one thing. Is we really, you know, we weren't like, oh, we got to write certain songs like this and do that. We just said, you know, we got to make sure we have good songs, and it's got to be great production. And we don't really want it. Again, we wanted to make sure that it sounded unlike the other ones, but still like Sanctuary. It always has to be progress.
Some people said that, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but it sounds more like Nevermore than the Sanctuary.
I hear people say that, and it's, you know, a lot of times, I mean, I kind of take it as a compliment, because I'm a Nevermore fan. I don't agree. I don't think it sounds like Nevermore. I mean, there's obvious reasons to me why it has similarities. Whirl, it sounds probably a little more like his Nevermore voice than his Sanctuary voice. I think that's part of it. I mean, as we've all grown up and everything, you know, things have changed. We're older, and I think he sings in a way that he feels more comfortable with now, and a little bit of that was kind of the Nevermore way, so I think it's kind of a combination. I don't really think like the guitars or the songs sound like Nevermore that much, but I understand when people say that. I don't necessarily agree, but what I hope is that people will take both of those, and, you know, as long as they like us, that's good, you know what I mean? And if they can enjoy it, if they can enjoy the record, if they think it sounds like Nevermore, that's fine.
Yes, but people must make comparisons between Sanctuary and Nevermore. Yesterday's show, you look at the crowd, there was more t-shirts with the Nevermore title than Sanctuary.
Probably, yeah.
Someone said it, I think Warren said it.
Yeah.
From the stage.
Sure. Yeah, and then again, you know, Nevermore was around for a long time too. Sanctuary wasn't around for very long. So.
How did you two meet, you and Warren?
When we got Dave in the band, the drummer, he knew who Whirl was from another band called Serpent's Night that he'd heard, and he said, yeah, this guy's really good, you got to check him out. So we basically we got Whirl to come out when he was in another band, and we got him to come out and try out for, you know, and check out the songs and everything, and you know, from there we all hit it off. He came out and saw what we were doing, and he loved it. So
you have a new member on the guitar, Nick Cordell.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any auditions? He joined recently, a few weeks ago, 3 weeks. We read it.
Yeah.
We read about it 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story because you know, our other guitar player kind of just quit suddenly, and what happened was we were kind of trying to figure out what we were going to do, and I contacted Zeus, and Zeus said, yeah, you got to check this guy out named Nick Cordell, and I didn't know who he was. I got to be honest with you, but I knew.
Very young. He's
but
very young.
yeah, and I knew who Arch Enemy was, and I have the War Eternal album. I love it. I just fucking love it. I was like, it's such a great album, and he's like, oh, and I think he was on that Arch Enemy album. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? That's awesome. And so Nick sent me a couple videos of him playing our songs, and he played them fucking perfect. It was, there was no apprehension at all when he said he was interested, and I saw how he could play our songs. It was like a breath of fresh air, and we were like, you're in if you want in, buddy. So here he is. He's great.
He's great, yes.
Yeah.
The Year the Sun Died is a concept album. It is a story about a doom prophet named Lenore.
Yeah.
Lenore. How does the story goes?
Yeah, well, Laurel could probably tell you that more about that better than I can. But basically, Lenore's a prophet of doom. She predicts the end of the world because the sun basically dies or implodes or whatever. And she's got kind of a group of followers that, she's kind of the, I don't know.
It's not connected to environment or
no, well,
influences of industry of environment.
If you read the liner notes in the album, his story and everything, all the songs kind of fit together, and they're very. He's a very deep writer and everything, so you'll get a lot out of it if you just read kind of along with it, and you can kind of figure out what's going on. But yeah, all the songs are somewhat connected. So.
Okay, this is it for me. Thank you.
All right.